Spring Equinox Festival in Gamut, Episode 9 of Valenaria Chronicles. Thanks for joining us. For a quick recap, for those who don't pay attention to my Twitter, where I'm always talking about the story, there's a parade in the honor of people who killed some kobolds. Yay! And also something about taxes, but let's ignore that. There's a parade. I do need to mention that Fredegar, the bard that was part of our group, this morning before the parade came by your rooms and said that he needs to head out. He's got to head to Avern, he's got to finish his job. And he says very clearly and poignantly, "I'm not a hero, I'm a mailman." And that's his parting line.
No.
There is a promise that maybe your paths will cross again, but he doesn't know when that will happen. He's not seeking out adventure, fame, or glory. He's just making ends meet and trying to see the world.
I like that it's a definite maybe.
A definite maybe. Because if Logan can come back, he's welcome back. So that's where we are. It's the morning of the Spring Equinox Festival, and there is a rap on your door. Representative of the representative, Apenor, says that the parade is ready if you would like to be escorted to your float.
Escorted?
Yes, that means that we take you from one place to another and keep you safe.
You... What? Well, that sounds fascinating.
I mean, there's going to be large... Just I had to stop and think about what if I had been using any accent last time.
Well, you're still...
So. It's been a while since we played, so I'm sorry. I am still Dirk.
Yeah, you're still Dirk.
I just don't remember if I was using an accent for this character right
Well,
now.
hold on, let me check.
I remember in the Kobold episode, you sounded sort of piratey.
It's true.
Okay. Gotcha. You're right. That's okay. Got it.
I be Dirk, the pirates.
Well, lass, there are likely to be large crowds out there, which could be, unpredictable. And so they use the escort to make sure that none of that unpredictability becomes violence or an accident.
The representative of the representative clarifies, because he doesn't want her to be upset, and then, sorry, Bree, and you can say what you were saying. He interjects. It's mostly, it's an honor. It's an honorific, if you will. It's more of it's a status. It's a sign of status.
Oh, well, that seems awesome. Seems like a smart idea.
So we should get whatever the fancy clothes we were supposed to wear for this event and put those on.
Yes. I'm going to go get those pictures that you sent me.
I'll put on my fancy clothes.
Yeah, a fancy
assuming that they were ready. Yeah. I think you got
this
fancy clothes,
picture.
didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
This was Bree's character, Isarel.
Yeah.
Very, kind of Bedouin feel to it.
Here's Dirk.
Yeah.
Super fancy. And do I have something for Derek?
I don't think so, because I just went with like a simple tabard.
That works. Something like the ones that Tristan was sharing in the chat?
No, what I was showing was a gambeson. A tabard is like a serape, but for your armor.
A serape.
It's basically just like a single linen that goes over you. It's got a hole for your head, and it goes down the front and down the back, and then a belt goes around it so that it shows colors against your armor.
Yeah, but you said
It's
serape,
usually...
so I'm going to pull up the first picture I got with serape.
Okay.
Oh, no.
I think that the serape is a good descriptor. I don't know how you spell serape, because I've never seen it written. It might have 2 R's.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, so yes, that is a serape. I would be surprised if it what's the word? Lay like this? Hang. If it hung like that. Yeah, hang.
So we're super fancy. There is a float that was made for you over the course of one day. It's as good as they're going to get it, you know. and then you're escorted to the float and placed up on the float, and there's people all over, like in this picture, just doing random things, and right in the middle is a parade. Because remember, this was also just the Spring Equinox Festival, so there's still festival stuff going on. But there's plenty of people who are cheering for the heroes of Garson's farm in the center of the city, and the parade is going to end at the fountain, right near the meeting house. So we're on the other end of town. That's where they've put you. Now the parade is going through town, and there's cheering and rose petals and whatever. Not the huge crowd you were promised necessarily, but people who are very happy about the heroes of Garson's farm and all these amazing stories that they heard about you, and the songs that Fredegar taught the other bards in the town are being sung, and people are believing every word of whatever lies that Fredegar told these bards about your exploits. So how are we feeling about the parade so far as our characters, Rook, Dirk, and Isarel?
I think he's like, he put up there and he's just gonna look around and say, so we just stand on this here wagon and wave at the crowd as you pull us through town?
The person who could answer you is the one who's driving the float, or wagon, and he turns and says, I don't know, waving seems polite. You might do it where you don't use your wrist so much. Your wrist gets real tired. I can tell you that from my experience riding wagons.
You wave without... So you wave from the elbow?
So he puts his hand up and he does the queen wave. Says, I don't know, something like this.
Well, that seems like it uses even more... Well, alright, fine, I'll do it.
It's good technique. You don't want your wrist to lock in one place or you'll get carpal tunnel.
I feel like I'm getting it already, whatever that is.
No, he's right. When I went out in the... and saw... Oh my gosh. My dog's barking. Hey, ladies.
I think your butt sneezed.
He's totally right. Anytime us orphans would leave the orphanage and go to any sort of events, that's what all the rich people did.
I see. Alright. I'm actually, like, sitting next to my mic doing the princess wave.
And then how is Rook doing with all this attention?
Not well. I mean, like, it's not like he minds the attention, he just doesn't do fancy very well.
Look at this epic guy. Look at him, he's so epic.
Just pull out your greatsword and hold it aloft or something.
Pretty much, like, the stories say that he is the strongest man in the area, that he has bested a Hydra with his bare fists, like, just all kinds of stories because of his showcase the other day. The arm wrestling and the touching of the guns.
Whose guns?
His muscles.
Oh, he let the people touch his guns.
Remember the pretty ladies wanted to touch his arm.
I mean, I was paying attention to my friend, the politician, who was gonna die, so I might have forgotten about that.
It's true. Yeah, we'll get there, okay? Don't jump the gun on that.
Just sitting here going, yes, it's all fun and games doing this stupid wave until there's a riot because nobody wants to pay money. Alright.
Don't read my DM notes.
We need a plan to get out of here once that happens, because I know as soon as he's like, alright, it's time to collect taxes, everybody's going to get the pitchforks and the other implements, probably bricks or sewing needles or other sharp things,
I
and...
don't think he's actually crazy enough to try and do it as part of the festival, right?
Yes.
Oh, really? Would someone be that rude?
I don't think he views it as rude. He views it as leading.
Oh.
So
We just be ready to jump off this thing before it catches fire, because, you know, right after the needles come out comes the fire, and we just book it out of town.
If we have to. I really liked it here.
I mean, it's not like I can fight a riot yet. So,
Yet. Or are you planning to?
not yet.
Again with the yet.
Wow.
I mean, obviously, if there's anybody we can scoop up to get out of harm's way, you know, sure, you're big and strong there, Rook. Just grab them and run.
Are we not warning anyone in this town about this?
I mean,
that
they
won't
all
go
had
well
the
for
chance
us.
to hear about it. They just weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. Just keep doing the no wrist wave. It'll be fine.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, you guys have been out in the world more than me, so I'm just gonna trust that this is what's the best thing to do. So.
You pass
The best
by.
thing to do is
Thing.
just stick together and don't get split up, because then we die.
Never
Okay.
split the party.
I just mean in a crowd. Don't get lost in the crowd.
You pass by ensemble of musical instruments that make you want to rip your ears off.
Wow, they're that good.
Well, they're trying, I guess.
Joseph channeling his teacherdom.
What teacherdom? Making fun of
What?
musicians?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, part of it is the instruments are of poor quality, and part of it is most of them don't know what they're doing.
Part of it is the instruments are poor quality, and part of it is the instrumentalists are poor quality. I thought my joke was funny.
I got it.
So, to paint a picture of this ensemble, since now that's what we're talking about, is we got a little curled metal brass instrument with a bell. It just curves around their arm and they blow into it. It's like a really bad French horn. It's dented in one place. It's not polished. Got some scratches. Kind of sounds like a baby elephant that was just born. Then we've got a flute made out of wood. The guy who made it is probably the guy who's playing it. It's not a pan flute. It's just like a stick with holes in it. So that is out of tune and probably the best sounding instrument, but still not that great. It kind of sounds like a human when they were born. And then what does that leave? A drum, which is just some kid banging on a skin stretched over a piece of wood.
Which somehow also manages to sound like a human that's just been born.
I know. I don't think that's what humans sound like when they're born.
How does the drum make that noise?
How is he doing that? It's amazing. Put him on the float.
That is actually impressive.
The parade is picking up. There's a larger crowd now that we're in the center of the city, heading towards the fountain. You can see that there are booths all over the place. There are children hitting balls, playing various like stickball games. There are food booths. Some of them are like free samples of a random thing on a stick, and some of them are vendors who are selling other random things on sticks. That's most of what they're doing is stick foods. And now the crowd is cheering and chanting. They're not chanting "Heroes
they're
of Garson
enthralling us?
Farm." Do what?
They're enchanting us? Do
Oh,
we have
yeah.
to make a roll?
Except that you're immune to enchantment, right?
Not immune. I think that, I know in 5e that you just have advantage, so I think it might
Might
just
be a +2 or something. Anyway, no, they're not enchanting you, Tristan. They are chanting for you. Now, Heroes of Garson's Farm is a bit much, so they're just saying Garson over and over.
Garson.
I don't think they realize that it's a person, most of them.
Yes, it is +2 versus enchantment.
You're immune to
Garson.
sleep, that's what it is.
Garson.
Yeah.
Yes, immune to magical sleep.
Now, you don't see Garson anywhere, but you imagine if he was here, he'd be grinning from head to toe.
Garson. Garson.
Yeah. So apparently that's what they're going to chant for you as some other person's name. So we're
Okay.
approaching the town square. There's a few people holding up signs. Would you like to make a spot check to see what's on those signs?
I suppose so.
Yeah. Let me get to my dice here.
Can we tell what language it's in first and foremost? Like, is it in common or
It seems to be common.
Valerian or whatever it was.
Anarian, yeah.
Anarian.
It's that.
Okay.
Spot
Which is
check.
That's not a great spot check.
Okay. Where's my spot?
I got a 10.
I got 15.
20.
Perfect. We can read the signs with varying levels of accuracy, but all good enough. One sign says taxation is theft. The other one says property owners have rights.
Oh.
And there it is.
So it seems some
Dirk, I
people
think-
are paying attention.
Yeah, I think, Dirk, you were right.
So, how do we get off this thing?
Not until the, well, probably actually literal shit starts flying.
Because Middle Ages.
Hmm.
Wait, that's a thing?
I mean, there are horses all over this place. We're being pulled by one.
Look, I didn't grow up in the best of circumstances, but that is just disgusting.
I think that's why they
Didn't
want to
you
throw it.
grow up in an oasis?
I mean, sure, but it's not like I slept in. It's not like I slept in a barn or something and had crap on me. The orphanage wasn't the best, but at least it wasn't like that.
They didn't tell you
found
that
a
the
place
streets
in an
were...
oasis that was cramp free. That's impressive.
They didn't tell you that the streets here were paved in gold or copper, did they? Because I can tell you that's horseshit.
Oh,
Actually, not like
He says while pointing.
He's like pointing at the road as he says it.
Oh, that's horseshit. Okay.
Mm.
no. So are we going past these people? Sorry. with
Yeah,
the
you're
signs?
about to pass by them.
Okay.
I imagine Israel's like, that's gross. They're supposed to pick a corner. Because you've been in the forest for a while. Not even going to use a leaf to wipe with?
Disgusting.
Yeah, so you're about to pass by these people with signs. And you see they've been joined by a third person with a similar sign. And then the representative of the representative walks over and asks them to kindly make way for the parade, even though they're alongside the parade. And they refuse. And he says, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the parade. And then they stand there and they say they have rights. They have the right to assemble. And he says, no, you don't. And then there's an argument. So now there's more people who have joined in the argument. And very shortly we have a sizable, peaceful protest going on.
Just keep smiling.
You were passing by. You now see that there's a crowd of about 30 people, who some are raising their fist in protest, and some of them have signs, and they're saying, "Don't tax the property! Don't tax the property! Don't tax the property!"
Garson! Garson! Garson!
So there's some people off to the side who are going, Garson, Garson, but now you pass by another crowd and they're saying, tax is theft, tax is theft.
Garson rules! Garson rules! Oh, yeah.
The crowd that was originally chanting is now following the parade and is getting bigger.
Are they like actually like directing this protest at us, like we're the ones taxing them, or are
No.
they just trying to stir up, drum up followers?
They're drumming up followers. You are the last float in the parade, and you're about to reach the fountain.
Oh boy.
So that's the town square, and they're wanting to bring the protest into the town square directly in front of the town hall where the leaders are, because they're receiving the parade, and they want to get everyone's voice heard because they know all the leaders are going to be there.
Okay. Well, as long as they're not attacking each other or the parade, then we're going to... Gaz is going to stand his ground, just keep waving and chanting Garson. He looks fabulous as he does so.
Right.
Maybe I should try and move things over with them.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Neither would I. I gotta do something.
Do you want to get in a punch fight with them or kill the leadership here?
No.
Because one of those two things is going to happen if you get involved right now. It's like saying that's all while still smiling and waving.
Like through his teeth.
Yeah.
I love it. So now
If
the
you don't want
protest is...
either of those things, don't get involved yet.
Yeah, it seems like the wrong time.
Your reason.
So now the protest is and your flow is all converging into town square. What you're noticing is the following scene. I guess I need to go back to the town square and imagine there's people there. I guess that's where we are. And by the way, aside from the protest, the parade was great. You got recognition, you got attention, you got
stuff.
rose petals, you've got a few.
Anyone throw money at us?
A few minor gifts that are barely worth mention, like a wreath or a medal made out of copper, things like that. It's just random gifts from people, maybe a piece of candy or something.
I am going to wear that copper medal proudly.
All right. It doesn't say anything. It's crudely made, and it looks like someone just like was an apprentice in a blacksmith shop and made it in an hour. But it's a medal. You get a medal now. You're a hero.
Woohoo!
We'll say that there was a wreath or something along those lines gifted to Isarel.
Ooh.
And then
Like a headdress type wreath thing?
like go around the neck sort of thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Cool.
And then something cool for the paladin. Maybe a wreath, like an armband he can put around his bicep. Made out of like a silken sort of cloth. So now that good feeling's gone, we're in town square. There are two crowds on either side of the town square that are chanting like taxation is theft, don't tax the properties. And you notice that those are better dressed. They're business owners, landowners, and then you notice that there's counter protests that are closer to you. Some are still chanting Garson, 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 heroes of Garson, heroes of Garson, and then there's a counter protest where they're trying to drown out the protests and telling them they're arguing with them. They're saying this is for the good of the city. You can't protest this because you're selfish, and we need to improve the wall, we need to improve the roads. And you'll notice that those are people who they're not business owners, they're farmers, or they're people who are more in the service industry, that sort of thing, that don't own any businesses, so they're not being affected by the tax, but they're going to benefit from it because the city is in shambles.
Alright. I think it's time for me to try and fight a riot with words.
What are you gonna do?
I'm going to try and convince them this is in their best interest.
So you get to the town square, there's the protest, there's a counter-protest of people who aren't as affected by the tax because they're not in that bracket, we'll call it. And then during all of this going on, you're brought up onto the platform with the elders. No one's listening to them. When the three of you get on the platform, now at least half of them are listening to you. So this is the opportunity if you wanted to say something.
Let's give this a try. Good, he'll be shouting, but I obviously won't be because, I don't want to shout. Good people of Gamut. It has come to my attention that there has been some unrest over a new law. The city is trying to implement a new tax. And while I can understand your misgivings and dislike of the delivery of the message from the other day, it is important to know that this is ultimately what's best for the city. I come from a place called Oasis. Some of you may have heard of it, some of you may have not, but it is one of the worst places to live because it's not taken care of very well.
I'm gonna butt in real fast and be like, I'm from there too, and what he's saying is kind of true.
If there's no money put into keeping this city going, it's eventually going to dry up and you'll all be left with nothing. If you don't come together to keep this place alive, you'll at the very least have to move if you can afford it by that point, as you'll likely be destitute, as no one will come to visit a city that's in ruins and shambles.
While he's talking, I'm going to roll some stealth and try to sneak down to become part of the crowd.
Okay, I want a few rolls here. I would like the diplomacy check from the two who spoke, and a hide check from Dirk.
Hide was a 17.
I rolled a 14.
I didn't roll very well, but I still got a 19.
Then also, Dirk, make a move silently check at a plus 40.
That makes sense. Move silently, plus 40. Just for funsies, I suppose, is going to be a 50.
Hey, good job.
No way.
Okay.
It's almost like there's a giant crowd here all shouting.
So those are good results, even the ancillary roll. The crowd, as Dirk is talking, no, not Dirk, Rook is talking, are receptive to the idea of hearing what he has to say. As he's talking about, hey, it's a motorcycle. As he's talking about the situation in Oasis, they're listening because they don't know much about Oasis. It's possible most of them don't even know where Oasis is. Talking about how it sucks, and the crowd says, "Well, why does that matter to us? It doesn't affect us here in Gamut." And then he's talking about got to do our part, and all of that. And that's when someone in the crowd says something along the lines of, "Well, taxation is still theft, and that's what the Elders Council is for, is to pay for the public works."
The reason why I mention Oasis is because it is an example of what happens when there isn't anyone to look after the city with no funds directed toward its upkeep. It falls to ruin and wayside, and people just try to leave as soon as they can. It's not a place anyone wants to stay or go, a place where no one can prosper. And the reason your Elders Council can't do it anymore is because there's not enough volunteers. If they had more volunteers for the work, they might have a chance to get things done, but relying solely on the coin purses of 3 people, like how the Elders Council is, what, 3 people? How many?
Yeah, you would have seen them. It's 4 people.
And relying solely on the coin purses of 4 people is not feasible to keep the city running properly. I mean, just look at your walls and some of your streets in the lesser districts. They're cracked and crumbling, and if you want them to stay, there, funds have to come from somewhere, and they can't afford it all themselves.
Well, that's their job! If they can't afford it, put someone else in power who can!
Why? Why are you doing this to me? I, of course, can't see you because you rolled well on hide, but...
This voice comes from the crowd.
I don't know anyone else who has a voice that corny, but it'd be hard to distinguish, so I guess I still don't know. But, still, out of character, why? Why are you doing this to me?
Well, I'm gonna try to speak up a little bit here too, and say, citizens of Gamut, don't you love your city?
It's got shit for streets.
That's
Don't you want him to be better?
Say I do.
Well, this is how that can happen.
So we make the Elder Council pay for better streets.
No, they can't. Even if they can afford the materials, they need people to help volunteer to help do the work, which is how your system had functioned. But with no one volunteering, people need to be paid now to get it to work, and they don't have the money to both pay for materials and for labor. They need help. Your help.
Someone else in the crowd who's not throwing their voice and is named Dirk pipes up and says, "Yes, but I have rights, and you can't make me volunteer. That's not voluntarism."
Well, that's exactly right, sir. No one will make you do anything. But I bet once everything gets underway and you start to see how much better the city is, you'll be impressed.
How much is, did they mention how much the property tax is?
No, the details have not been revealed.
Even from the sauced up guy in the tavern the one night?
No, he revealed that it was going to happen. I would like diplomacy rolls, or whatever rolls, Tristan, that you want to make.
I'm just giving them opportunities to make better arguments.
Oh, you're giving them strawmans.
Uh-huh. Gotta love the strawman. For diplomacy, which I'm super good at, I got a 9.
Can't get a 9 on diplomacy.
You can't get a 9 on diplomacy?
Correct. My minimum's a 10.
Am I rolling this too?
There's no way you can't get a 9 on diplomacy.
Yes, Bree, you piped in. The way we give him a 9 is we don't let him roll.
Oh, shit! I just rolled a 20, and my diplomacy is +2.
So do I need to be rolling as well? Again?
Yes.
Still a 10 on die, so 19.
Yeah, so things are going well, because we're being really, really heckin' diplomatic, so everyone's doing their part on that front. No one's getting bad rolls, so no one gets to be a scapegoat.
I just don't want to die.
Right. Well, we were really close to a full-blown riot. You caught that vibe pretty easily.
I mean, I heard what the man said, and I know how people.
So we're at a point where the crowd wants to talk about this, but they're requesting an actual open forum instead of the elders trying to sneak this past in a meeting about a parade. They're requesting an open forum where they can actually talk about this and come up with a solution as a city.
I kind of turned to the leaders, thinking to myself, that sounds perfectly reasonable.
The elder who introduced you to the crowd seems unwilling. He says, the decision's already been made. We're enacting it very soon. I don't know why we need to go back over this.
I'm going to just try and pull him aside and say, just kind of say to his ear, listen, I'm doing what I can here, but if you don't want a full-blown riot, you had better at least listen to what they have to say, even if your decision's still going to be the same.
He replies, I'm not concerned about a riot. I've got the rule of law on my side. I can enforce the law as I need to, and the law is on my side, so I don't know why we're concerned about riots. I've got the sheriff and his deputies to back me up.
Are they here in this scene? Are they visible?
Now that you ask, they are around the town square, keeping an eye on things, but they were not in a position when the parade ended to actually be between the stage and the crowd, and they're not able to get past them.
Sure.
When I was looking around, how outnumbered do his little guardsmen look?
10-1. But remember that part of the crowd is counter-protesters.
Sure. But
that are
I
like
think-
the least well-armed people in the crowd.
yeah. How are the sheriff and his deputies armed? Are they armored? Are they carrying cudgels? Are they carrying blades? Are they carrying crossbows?
Most of them have some simple light, like leather armor, and it looks like most of them have short swords or equivalents equipped.
So people gonna die if a fight starts.
One way or the other, yes.
Hmm.
Then, after getting that information from the DM, I'd like to say, because you don't want citizens that you want to be taxing to just go and die on you from this riot, and B, because they outnumber you at least 5-1, I'm not sure you'd win this fight.
Okay, make that final diplomacy roll.
I'd make an intimidation roll.
Yeah,
I mean-
that's honestly a bit more accurate, even though I'm significantly worse at that.
Here we go, Paladin of Cord.
That is a 16 intimidation or a 23 diplomacy, whichever you want.
I think we could sort of apply both in a way, and it's working. Like, he's realized that going the law and order side of things is not going to work when he's outnumbered. So he says, "So a town hall meeting, an open forum, is that what they want?" Oh, yes, I think we can manage that.
Well, that's wonderful.
So he puts his hands up again. The crowd does not respond. So he looks straight at Rook like, "Okay, get their attention, please."
I put my hands up.
They stop. So with the ensuing silence, someone who doesn't throw their voice in is named Dirk says, "So are we going to have that open forum?"
I give the floor to the council member.
No, we don't want to hear from him.
It is my understanding that he is willing to have that open forum.
There's cheering. There's also jeering.
I demand more shoes!
Make a disguise check, Dirk. Or something deceptive.
Or something deceptive. Sleight of hand.
Right, it's called bluff in this edition.
It is called bluff.
I was trying to find it under deception.
Yeah,
For disguise, that would be a 16. For bluff, that would be also 16.
okay.
For sleight of hand, that would be 4 and 3, 7, 18.
Okay, the people around you gave you a funny look for a second and didn't recognize you. Because you're just like constantly shouting stuff out.
I've got my beret like over half my face.
Like the Marvel disguise kit, sunglasses and a hat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now we fast forward to the open forum, which was set up in the next half hour. And apparently the crowd, both the people who respect his opinions and the people who worship him as a muscle-bound god, lowercase g in this case, are demanding that Rook act as mediator for this open forum. And
Rook,
for that
you're a
measure,
popular guy.
Isarel as a backup mediator.
Oh,
I'm guessing at some point in this half hour that Dirk, air quotes, is going to try and convince us to just leave.
I imagine he will.
I'm part of the crowd.
Weren't there 3 of you?
I only remember there being 2.
I like that. Crafty. So, real quick, I'm going to put in some XP for the parade so we can continue from there. As soon as I do that, XP logs. So, the festival, we'll go with 150. So, I'm not going to make you go through the entire town hall, but I imagine we have plenty of time to hit the highlights of it. So we'll assume that whatever we end up doing, it was a little bit longer than that. So the first point is there are a few people from the town who are sort of acting as representatives for the landowners, and there's a few outspoken not landowners who are very much in favor of tax the landowners. And then we have Dirk in the crowd. We have Israel and Rook as moderators because the people are kind of upset with the Elders Council and don't want to hear from them. And then we've got Representative Apenor, who is speaking on behalf of the Elders Council and sitting at a table adjacent to theirs.
Oh my god, he's not part of the Elders Council?
No, he's Representative Apenor. Remember when you first saw him, he brought you a little purse of money as a gift from the council.
I thought he was a councilman. I just thought that representative was the title they used.
Ah, okay. He's a representative of the council, and they go by elder.
Okay.
Kind of cuts him down to size, doesn't it?
A little bit.
So, first point of business is the point that the people have rights, and these decisions cannot be made without their approval. So, I'd like to know, with that point being made by the representatives of the people, of the landowners, what Rook and Isarel are going to do to manage this particular point. They don't have to argue with the people necessarily, but we do have to find a solution, an agreement between the landowners and the elders.
I would like to, I'd like to be made aware of any type of Bill of Rights, Constitution, any type of official government documents that would actually might entail what it is they actually can and can't do.
And the person who can tell you is in the crowd. I imagine that if you wanted to know about that, you probably would have asked before the meeting. So then I can say that Dirk, I did the air quotes, was able to tell you. There is an official document that's the charter of the Elders Council. There's no actual constitution, any governing documents or Bill of Rights for Gamut. But the Elders Council documentation, which Dirk has seen, is essentially along the lines of the guidelines for the Elders Council and their relationship to the city. So the main 3 points is they have a responsibility to keep the city running, and to make major decisions. They make major decisions with the approval of the landowners in open forum meetings. So basically, the third one is that they're granted any powers that are reasonable for their position of keeping the city running, and the rest of it is fine print along those lines. So as far as their protection from this sort of situation, it comes down to this decision should have been made in an open forum, but it's not covered explicitly.
From what you just said, it sounds like the citizens don't have any rights because it has nothing to do with them.
I mean, yeah, they have whatever rights that are agreed upon through good faith from the Elders Council and what they'll tolerate from the Elders Council. So we're in that area that good faith has been broken. There's another element of it which is it was in my head. Oh well, it's gone. But yeah, essentially, this is a decision that should have been made in an open forum. But the reason that they're trying to get away with it might have to do with the fact that there's no mention of taxation. So they could be approaching this as outside of the document, and maybe they intend to make an amendment to the document covering taxes specifically. But since there's no precedent concerning taxes, they're trying to act like it's not covered in the document, when clearly making a major decision is covered.
Okay.
So this would have been a consultation that Dirk could have given you.
So then, to their response of, So their point at this point is that they have rights.
Yeah, they have rights that are reasonable within good faith and within the decisions made within open forum. I should mention one more thing, that there are certain societal precedents set by the previous legal structure of an area that no longer exists. So there's always going to be a tension between what people are used to and what's actually legally binding. And the townspeople are on one side expecting that because there's never been taxation, there shouldn't be. And with the elders, there has been taxation, so there should be.
Well, you're right to a certain extent that you should have a voice in these matters.
Says who?
I'm just going to have to ignore that. I don't know what to do with that.
We need to revisit the charter.
And what is it you'd like to see about from revisiting of this charter, sir?
We need to protect the people. You only protect the landowners.
The landowners who believe they have the most important voice in the room, because in the chat of the Discord, Tristan was pointing out, only landowners actually have a voice, are trying to shut you up. They're like, no one asked you, whoever you are, the landowners have the say.
In the case of this, does this tax affect anyone other than landowners?
Whether or not it gets paid does.
The non-landowners, the working class service industry people are responding because they have some representatives who were allowed in the open forum, and they say, we are affected because public works affects everyone.
True, it does, like, what gets completed will affect everyone, but are you actually having to pay for it?
We're no better than serfs here.
Yeah, that, yeah.
We want rights. We want rights.
Is he trying to get a chant going?
Yeah.
Okay, make a check to try and get a chant going.
I'm doing performance.
There you go.
I got a 19.
Okay, the landowners pipe in, we want rights, even though they don't like you. And then the non-landowners...
Those already have rights.
Non-landowners try to sort of chant of public works, but it's drowned out.
So I'm confused. Maybe I'm misunderstanding here. But what is the non-landowner complaint with the public works thing? Because from my understanding, they don't have to pay, and they still get the benefit.
Yeah, they think that the landowners are being selfish.
Why would they be selfish?
Because they don't want to be taxed without representation. But
What?
from their perspective, they think the landowners just don't want to pay taxes.
Yeah, but the landowners have representation.
Now they do, but their voice wasn't being heard on the matter. Thus the signs and the yelling and the screaming and almost death.
Alright.
So you got a crowd chanting. How are you going to handle this? We want rights. We want rights.
I'm going to ask them to calm down and say, let's ask one very important question before things get out of hand here. Just how much is this tax and what is it on?
Representative Appenor leans over to the table next to him, and then he's whispering with one of the elders. The elder nods to him like, yes, you can say the specifics about this. Appenor gulps, turns and stands up, says, what we propose is a monthly tax of 20% of revenue to be put into, and immediately as he's talking, the crowd drowns him out.
Boo!
In a yearly 20% property tax.
I'm just popping in there in the chat with all my questions. They're like, you guys should really be wondering about these things.
Okay, they have representation. They get to represent themselves in a forum. The bad guys are the Elder Council who broke the charter by passing him. Who is assessing property value? Ooh, it's a good question.
Yeah.
I was getting to that one.
It's. I'm really interested to see where we're going with this and how we're going to solve this issue because it's not my job.
Well, and I would chime in more, but I am pretty sure Israel has no idea about how cities operate.
Right. I know what orphanages are like, and I like the forest. I like water. Water's good.
Water's fantastic.
So I'll try and calm down the crowd again so I can ask them a question. Assuming that works.
Yeah, they're listening to you. They trust you.
They think that the city needs improvements if there's things that need to be fixed or changed.
That's an easy one. That's a slam dunk question. They're all, the place is
Roads, buildings, walls.
falling apart. The Elder Councils should really do something about that.
Need a new loo.
And so they are trying to do something about that. However, I think they're going about it a little, dodgy.
Protecting his friends.
So, my question to you is, this city has operated on a volunteer system in the past. If you're so averse to taxes, would any of you be willing to volunteer more of your time so as to avoid taxes coming about? Or, if you're not, is there a smaller amount you'd actually be willing to pay?
They're whispering amongst each other. One of the elders whispers something to Apenor, who then comes over to you and whispers, the elders are not interested in discussing a change in policy.
Well, that doesn't seem very fair.
Some open forum this is.
Well,
If
they're
that's-
allowed to discuss it, but we're not going to circumvent the tax in favor of volunteerism, which is not working.
Alright, what about a compromise? There's less of a tax for those who will volunteer time instead.
Compromise. I'll ask. He goes back and he asks, meanwhile, one of the representatives of the people who get voices with capital letters says, yes, that sounds like something we're willing to entertain. Then Apenor comes back and says, yes, let's go that avenue.
That favors the landowners with able bodies. What about us disabled in some way and cannot work?
Yeah, what about them?
I'm going to simply ask the council, did you have any plans in place for them?
You basically get a shrug like, those are people?
Oof.
Oof. Well, come on. Not everyone can contribute physically. What if they volunteer their time doing other things?
Okay, Apenor waves at you. That he wants this to stop just for a second, comes over and says the elders would like to take a short recess.
Then
Run away from the questions,
Then I'll say, the elders are looking to take a short recess so that we can discuss some of what is said here and come up with a new proposal to bring back to you.
So I can run off to some other town more like.
No.
I have a monocle now.
Don't worry, we'll keep an eye on them.
The elders say, the one who does all the talking, that's not Apenor, but like the actual elder, says, we will take a 5-minute recess. You may stay here and discuss things amongst yourselves. We will be in the back room, and we will return shortly. So now we've got Rook, Isarel, the elders, no one else, in a room together. So,
Alright.
4 elders who are wealthy business owners, all in their 50s and 60s, sitting across from a cage fighter and an orphan, a pit fighter and an orphan, and the one who does all the talking says, it sounds to me like we're heading towards a change in legal governing documentation. I don't like that.
Why don't you like it?
Things have worked the way that they work now for 200 years, and we don't need to change it.
With all due respect, with you trying to implement attacks and things, they haven't been working. If they would be, changes wouldn't be have to be made.
That's not necessarily a change to the documentation. That is us making decisions that are benefiting of the city. As you may be aware, the first section of our charter discusses that it's our responsibility to make these major decisions for the purpose of maintaining the city. We are claiming it under that clause, which is why I can see your confusion that the discussion has been steered towards the second one, major decisions made with the approval of landowners.
Well, this is a major decision.
You don't get an argument back on that.
Okay, then. So you knew that this also fell into the second clause. So, you should have seen this coming. I'm trying to do what I can here to find some middle ground. The best I can think of, with the little information I have, is perhaps a 10% tax instead, with the ability for people to sign up for volunteer work to lessen it. To instead work for what they owe.
So you're proposing we continue with the legislation that we were attempting. We put it back on the table and make an amendment to give tax credit for volunteer work.
Yes, and perhaps having some sort of exemption for those who are unable to work.
Well, I don't believe that's going to be a concern because this is for the abled landowners. So I don't believe we have any disabled landowners.
Are there... But this does tax what people own. So
yes, but only the landowners.
But only the landowners. Well, if you own a house, does that count as being a landowner?
Is it within the city?
Yes.
Then yes.
Then that's the problem. There could be someone disabled living in a home they've had for a while, and you're constantly, and well, not constantly, but yearly taking away money that they have when they have no way to make more. They're just trying to survive on what little they have left.
And there's no way for them to volunteer their time?
I have a question for Derek.
Yep.
Do you know what a serf is?
I do not, off the top of my head.
It is a person who lives in a home owned by somebody else and works their land for no pay.
But in return, they get the shelter and the food and stuff.
They get food and shelter, but any revenue that they produce, like farming or bricklaying or whatever happens, that all goes to the person who owns the land.
Mm-hmm.
It's called serfdom. The person who rules over the serfs is usually a lord of some kind or a duke. In this case, so I believe I'm kind of reading between some of the lines here, Joseph, but it sounds like that's the system you have set up here.
It's not quite fiefdom because it's these cities are more akin to like the city-states of merchants, but there is certainly a hierarchy within the city where there's the business owners, and then there's the working class that work for the business owners.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also the fact that there are apprenticeships where you're basically a serf for the master of the craft that you're learning. There's always that, and there's also very probably a situation where a business owner's employees might live on his land. So that is a possibility in some places in some parts of the city.
I just think that context might help Derek formulate his discussion here.
Okay,
yeah,
so
it's more akin to like
some people are serfs or at least serf-like, but I'm not sure how this particular bill would affect them, as from the sounds of it, they make no income and own nothing.
Yeah. So you've made good points to the elders, so you're sort of wiggling them a little bit. And the head of the Elders Council is open to whatever it takes to not have to rewrite the governing documents and actually give the people a voice in how those documents are shaped.
I'll ask this, because I'm very much out of my element here with things kind of both outside of my historical knowledge and outside of my, political knowledge when it comes to, things like taxes.
Sure.
So could I make a roll to kind of in-cap this? Because I've done pretty much what I can with what I know, but I feel Rook would know more.
You've done a lot, so there's not much more that you'll need to do here. The main thing is that you've managed to come up with a compromise, which is tax credit for voluntarism, in place of where things seemed to be heading that they're trying to avoid, which is an actual governing document for the people by the people. As long as they can come up with that compromise and still have most of the control in Gamut and keep people happy, then they'll go with whatever you ask. So they're going to pursue the tax credit thing. But with the disabled people, they're willing to work out a compromise if in the coming days they can send out some people to survey who is actually affected by that, and then come up with a policy based off that.
Well, that works.
So now we're at a point where the open forum is going to continue. Now they no longer will need Rook and Isarel as intermediaries, because the attitude of the Elders Council coming into this is immediately different. They're immediately way more amenable, because again, they want to stay in charge and they don't want to die. So no French Revolution, no rewriting of the documents into a constitution, none of that. They're going to come up with tax credits in place in exchange for voluntarism, because that means that for some people, they don't want to work. So they're just going to pay the money. So that's taken care of. Now, when it's all said and done, because we're coming to a close here, because I know that we've got places we got to go and things we got to do with our real lives. As we come to a close with today's adventure, and I just want to say I really enjoyed the roles that everyone was playing in this, especially the idea of Dirk being a straw man. That was fun. So they come up with a compromise. They're going to continue talking about things. Obviously, the tax is not going to be implemented yet, because that is back on the table and being amended. They're coming up with some basic rules for discussion as far as this that are along the lines of Robert's rules, so that's pretty nice. And part of that was due to the efforts of Rook and Isarel. But towards the end of the meeting, which they're going to do several days in a row that you are not required to be at, the elders and one of the representatives of the landowners is talking to the group of I don't know if it's 3 of you or 2 of you. I don't know when Dirk is planning on rejoining the group, but this could be the time to do that, because the meeting's over. But
I was just in the loo for a long time.
So they're just they're chatting with you about how the day has gone and what their hopes are for the future of Gamut. And the topic of you being the heroes of the city comes back up again. Not necessarily in the context of moderating a meeting that's way outside of anyone's range of expertise, but more along the lines of, and this is like everyone's being candid sort of situation. It's like, you killed some kobolds. It's not that big of a deal, but the people of Gamut look to you as heroes, and you've fulfilled that role. And it could be fun in the future to do something like a sparring match or a demonstration of your combat prowess, but... And I wanted to know what your reaction to that would be before I move on.
So we would stay in Gamut for a little while yet?
They're offering that in the near future, maybe you could be physically in Gamut and do some sort of combat demonstration.
Okay.
I mean, I'm game for that.
I would be too. I was hoping that we would continue to travel after this, but I'd be up for it in the future.
That is, travel is what I was going to bring up, he says. And this is the main elder. Because now that the city of Gamut has some certified, some bona fide heroes, maybe you could do something about the vampire problem.
Vampire problem?
I'm sorry?
Record scratch. Vrr.
All right, I'm
Oh,
back from the
dear.
bathroom. What did I miss?
And everyone's slack-jawed.
Why does everyone look like that? And by everyone, I mean you two.
Well,
So, for anyone watching the episode, thanks for joining. We're going to pick up at this very moment in our next episode, episode 10 of Valenaria Chronicles. I'm the DM, Joseph, and I'm saying goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.